So UV mapping, what is it? It is a way to explain or to define to a polygon model how it should be wrapped in a texture or a pattern of a type. Imagine you are putting stickers on a car, for instance. Then you need to have a plan how you want those stickers to go on. Another way to think about it is in folding or unfolding something. That is also a way to think it. With things like organic creatures, it's like pelting an animal. It's the same thing, you sort of want to create a flat thing. So here I have an example that you're going to do in a second. Go away, Mark. Where we have this box that was made. It's 8 by 10 by 3 units. And when we create a default box, I can just create one beside it. If I move that over here, and I'll just make that in the cube settings, I make it 8 by 10 by 3. So it's the same shape as this one. And then I'll apply the same material. I made a blend material with this. I'll just apply the same one, existing blend. And you can see that that doesn't look right. So the reason for this is that whenever we have a point in our object, like here or here or here, that point has a position in space. We just started. Okay. Yes. But that is an x, y, and z coordinate. So that explains where that. Sorry, I just need to go to vertex. So that explains where that point is located in space. Okay. But apart from the x, y, and z, it also can have one or more set of UV coordinates. And the UV coordinates describe where that point references an image. So if I go to UV and editor, you can see that this is an image, and the point I have selected right now refers to this point here in the image. And the point over here refers to this point in the image. I can just turn on this blue coloring, so you can see it's like a box that was unwrapped, right? And if I take these points here, just go to UV, take these points here, and move them down, you can see that the the cutout that is shown on those surfaces becomes bigger because it's a smaller area over here it takes, right? So the funny thing is, if you make this smaller, the image will become bigger. It's sort of the opposite thing. So something like that. So the reason why this one isn't looking right is because when we create an object like this, it has a default UV map. So for a cube, it has this unfolded UVs. Actually, it can have. Actually, we can define a different one. So let's just grab this. And in the polycube thing where I created, there's this section called Create UVs. And right now it has normalized. That means it puts it inside this 0 to 1 square. If I turn normalization off, you can see it has 0 to 1 on each face. So now it looks like that, because now the whole image is on each face. Could also be each face separately. Now they are all on top of each other. Looks the same because it's the same image that is repeated everywhere. Normalize collectively, so that means it will just fit it inside the 0 to 1 area, or use it while it preserves aspect ratio, so these are square. But as you can see, none of these really works with the texture. So that is what we need to do. So what I'll do is I will start from scratch. I'll do this, and if you look at the folder, I put 2 files there. I put a link to Maya Getting Started. This is for Maya 2015 because they didn't update this material for 16, but it is more or less the same. At least you can follow that if you don't want to follow the video. So it's this thing here. It explains how you go through it. You can just step through each of the pages. You should note that the UV things has moved around, so you can see the menus look slightly different, unfortunately. But I'll cover that in the video. The important part here is that I also put this UV Lessons PSD. So you should copy this to your own machine, to your desktop. Copy it, not move it. I will just see if I can protect it. Yes, there we go. Hopefully that'll work. So what I do is I start out by, in polygons, create a cube. Yeah. And I can just use my channel box here. I go to width, set that to 8, height, set that to 10, and depth, set that to 3. So that is my cracker box dimensions. Then I will apply a material. So the easiest way to do that is to go to a rendering menu set and then click the blend while this is selected. I can also right click the object and say assign new material, or assign favorite material, blend. It's all the same. So now I have a blend material on there. So you can see it says blend over here. Then the next thing we need to do is to apply a texture to that material. And if you look at your material settings over here, you can see that there's a lot of checkered boxes out here. So I find the one with the color. That's one that describes the color of the object. And I click this little checker box. When I do that, it'll open up this requester. And I need to select, I can use either the file or PSD file, but the PSD file is made specifically for Photoshop files. And since I know it is a Photoshop file, I'll choose that. There we go. Go away now. Then when I do that, it will open up this window here. This is the file requester for the PSD file. And I will then click the little yellow folder icon here. And then I need to find this file. So you probably copied it to your desktop or something. So just select that. And I'll just make this window slightly smaller. This is former students discussing burgers, I'm sure. Interesting. Okay, so now I have my texture applied. And if I go to my shader, I can just click this. You can see my material has the texture, but there's nothing in my viewport. And the reason is I need to click on this little checkered sphere here, or press 6 on the keyboard. That turns on texturing in the viewport. Otherwise, there's nothing on. So you can see I can also go wireframe and whatever. But that is what I need to do. Good. So now we're ready to do the UV mapping. To do that, I will open up the UV editor. It's in version 16. It has been moved to the modeling menu set, UV and UV editor. You can also find it over here in Windows something editors, but UV editor right there. Okay. And you can see that I have the same thing I showed you before. To get a good starting point, because I want this to be as easy as possible, what I'll do is I'll apply a UV projection to this object. And there's a lot of different ones. You can use like spherical ones that will be like applying a world map to a sphere, or planar ones that are like just sticking out from the side, etc. So what I'll do is I will use something called automatic. That sounds good, right? So select the object, UV, and go automatic. There we go. So what this does is it looks at the object from 6 sides and finds the faces or the polygons that is facing towards it, and then applies a planar map to each of these. So you can see I get all of these faces separately in my UV editor. So this is pretty good. I'm ready to go. You can see this is my front face, and this is my back face, and this is my bottom, this is top, and left and right. Okay. What I'll do now is I will move this to the side, and then I'll show how I will stitch this together. So I'll right click, go UV, select the point, then hold Control and right click and go to shell. I can also just right click and then go select shell. That's the same thing. It's different ways of doing the same. And I should also in version 16 be able to just double click this. Yeah, that works too. So if I move that out here, you can see how that changes what is put on the surface. So move that out there, and then I'll use a tool called Move and Sew. So I right click my object and select edge, and then I click this edge here, and you can see when I run over this edge, it will highlight this edge here, but also the edge over here that corresponds to it. So I click that, and then I go to polygons, and go Move and Sew, and you can see it pops that up there. Do the same thing here, polygons, Move and Sew, that one, polygons, Move and Sew, and polygons, Move and Sew. All right, so I have the exact same layout as this part here, and this one is on its own. That's the back thing. So I'll just move that out of the way first. Just grab that, double click the point here, move it over. I just use the standard move tools here, so I can do like rotation and all kinds of different things what I need to. Okay, so I'll take this, double click it, move it over here. See, that sort of fits right in. Just zoom in. And then I'll do this quickly, just select this row here, move it down so that it's just inside the texture. The same thing with this one up here. Move it down so it's just inside the texture. Same thing down here. Move it up so it's just inside the texture. And same thing here. And then I need to take these and then just arrange them horizontally. That one is okay. Then I just need to move these in a bit like there, and that one. So that's more or less it. So you can see this one is all good. It's just the back side that I need to fix, and that's the one I moved out here. So just double click that, and I'll move it over here, and you can see it looks good. When I have it all selected, there's these two rotation buttons. So I can use that to just rotate it by clicking it twice. And then I'll just move it in there. Select that, move that in there. Select that, and move that up there. And there we go. We have UV mapped our first object and created UVs that work. What you should know is when you create UVs, it's you can do this in many ways. You can also create like overlapping UVs like so. It will highlight it red if it's inside out, if it's like inverted. It will look darker if it's on top of each other. If you have UVs that overlap, then it's fine. But if you at some point want to paint on your model, and we have at least 3 different pieces of software that can paint on 3D models, and it's a nice way to work. You can paint in Maya, you can paint in Mudbox, and you can paint in something called Mari. Then you'll need this to be laid out in a way that it is non-overlapping, because otherwise, if this was up here and I was painting this area, then I would be painting this area, but if I then was painting this, I would be painting in the same area. So that would be weird. So that's why I need to make sure that everything is what's called one-to-one. So every single place on the surface corresponds to one single place in the texture. Am I making sense? Mm-hmm. Good. And that's the tricky part about UV mapping. A lot of things has been done to make this easier. Disney developed something called PTEX, where you don't have to think about anything. It just does it for you, and you can then paint on it later, and everything is nice. The problem with PTEX is that you cannot open your texture in Photoshop and then modify it in there later, because it's all separate pieces. So it's useless if you want to use a normal 2D painting package. But it's great for 3D paint. Another thing you should think about is quality. So you can see that if I move in to a certain distance, I will start to see pixelization because of the resolution of the texture map. That will happen at some distance always. The important part is that you make sure that the layout of your UVs is equal, so that all parts of the surface is equally pixelated or equally not pixelated. So for instance, if I take this part over here and then scale that small and then move that up here maybe, you can see that that is pixelated from this distance while this is not. And that sort of breaks the illusion that this is nice. It's not a big problem when it's something like you would expect to be printed, and maybe the graphic artist was a moron and did this. But if you're doing something like maybe a wood texture on a table, or the texture of a road or something like that, and you have different levels of quality, then that will break the illusion that this is a world, a cohesive world where everything is like real. I remember once, don't laugh, I watched Barbie and the Nutcracker. Very pink thing. And there's this old clock, and it all looked like crap more or less, but fair enough. Later Barbie movies look better, but especially there was this clock that I guess it was because it was nearing midnight or something. So they zoom into the clock, and the resolution of the texture of the clock was just crap. So it's just like, it was like doing this. That didn't work. So make sure that you make it have the same sizes or relative sizes. Thankfully, and this is the last thing I'll say to this, is that there is actually a tool in here that will help you do that. There is this thing called layout, which is a function, and in here it has something called prescaling. So what it'll do is it'll look at each of your patches, each of the parts of your texture, and it will look at the size it occupies in real world space, and then it'll scale them so that they will fit. So let's just try it with this one. I'll just make this one smaller, like this, and then I will grab all of it. Just turn off rotation because I don't want it to rotate. And then I will prescale it with respect to world. And I click apply. And you should hopefully see this getting a size that is similar to what it had. You see? So now it figures out that these two occupy the same space, so it should scale the smaller one so that it fits. right? So that's a nice little trick when you need to make sure your textures are equal. Yep, I'll stop this, and then you can